Alrighty, hi everyone. My name is Maija Ehlinger. I am editor-in-chief at Hypopotamus. We cover tech startups and entrepreneurship here in Atlanta and across the Southeast. I am really honored to be on the stage here today with Tim Zulawski, who is Chief Revenue Officer for AMB Sports and Entertainment, and Frank Young, Chief Strategy Officer for Global Payments. The reason we're here today is because of the last year's official announcement about the corporate sponsorship between your two companies to bring frictionless payments to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I've been able to go to the stadium. I hope many people in the audience have been there for games or concerts or what have you. And if you haven't, hopefully this conversation will entice you even more to go check it out. I'll give brief intros to both of you, and then I really want to dive into what this means for kind of the intersection of fintech and entertainment here in the city. So Frank, over at Global Payments, has worked across the banking and technology space, including time at Google and Qualcomm. He's now Chief Strategy Officer, but has previously been Chief Product Officer and President of Vertical Markets and Integrated Payments at Global Payments. And Tim leads strategy, growth, revenue sponsorships, broadcasting sales for the Falcons, Atlanta United, and all the events we see at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So we have a lot to talk about in terms of how you've been able to generate sales and sponsorship opportunities there. So I want to start with you in terms of, for people that haven't been to the stadium recently, or maybe have and have not realized all of the payment opportunities that are going on behind the scenes. Walk me through the fan experience, if you will, of someone coming for the first time for a concert or to see one of our great teams here in town.
Sure. Well, first, Maija, thank you for having me, as well as everyone here in the audience. Hopefully, you'll find something that that Frank and I can cover enlightening and worth your time. So coming to Mercedes-Benz Stadium and our interaction with you really starts with the moment you decide that the event that we're going to host is part of something you want to do. We have to begin that journey when you've clicked on it and interacted, all the way through your car, loading your car, or taking public transportation or rideshare transportation down here, come through the ingress of the stadium. Then when you get in the stadium, points of transaction, opportunities, whether it be merchandise, food and beverage, to eventually the content to which you're there to enjoy, to then the egress and return to home. Because if anything inhibits you along the way, you may choose to watch on your 80-inch TV or may choose to do something else with your time. So simply put, when it comes to technology in general, anytime technology can enhance the experience, provide equal to or better enhance the experience, and either take a pain point out or potentially improve profitability or speed of service or effectiveness, it's something that we're going to look at in particular, and we'll get into it through the discussion. But Global Payments and their relationship with us plays a significant part in it, just because a simple full stadium event that we'll do at Mercedes-Benz Stadium generally has 90,000 transactions, and so for that 4-hour period, few people are getting their Miller Lights, Bud Lights, and hamburgers and such, as well as a Falcons jersey, a United kit, or Coldplay was just here, maybe some Coldplay merch. It's all dependent on Frank and his team to process that.
So tell me a little bit about how this partnership came together. 90,000 transactions every event, that's a big number. So tell me a little bit about what did this partnership look like, and kind of how did you know this technology partnership was right?
You want to go with me or Frank?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, sure. So Mercedes-Benz Stadium is the busiest 70,000 seat stadium in the United States, maybe the world. We'll do over 60 major events, a couple million, almost approaching 3 million people through. We're cashless, so we do have a reverse ATM model, but that's decimal points of usage. So the credit card or touch and go payment service is critical to us. That experience with the fan, again, speed of service. They do not want to late. They can't have redundancy in their transactions where they had a double charge on their account. There's different things that you all will know as technology folks, that the pipeline has to be crisp in order for the consumer to go up, buy what they want to buy, pay with speed in a quick manner to get what they wanted, and at the end of the day, pay what they expected to pay. It sounds pretty simple, but as you process that many millions of people through and that many orders, you find that there can be a simple thing as a latency in the system, and all of a sudden someone's card got charged twice. No one's happy about that, especially if they're a suite owner and it was a $3,000 bill, and all of a sudden they got multiple $3,000 bills on their side. So how did this partnership come to fruition is, first and foremost, we did a traditional RFP, and the folks from Global Payments raised their hand. Not only did they raise their hand, they came full force. Their bread and butter historically been the QSR business in particular. They do have, I'll say, sister companies that have acquired across the pond in other areas that are in the sport and entertainment business. And what they came to was with a can-do attitude. They went into we were backstage and someone apologized about seeing the food cart go by. I see that every day at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So they were literally in the bowels of our food and beverage service, meeting with our concession team, meeting with our technology team, understanding our pipeline, understanding the demands on the system, in order to ultimately curate a custom solution for us. And by seeing that desire, that differentiated them from everyone else. And so when Jeff Sloan and Cameron Brady and AO and their collective team was there and said, hey, no matter what it is, we're going to be here to solve it. We're going to give you a world-class solution. They want us over.
Wonderful. Well, Tim mentioned part of this is, the fact that Global Payments, we might think of it as a payments company, but you're much more than that now. So kind of tell me first of all, how does Global Payments kind of position itself as a technology company today? And then I would also love to hear from your perspective why winning this Mercedes-Benz deal was so important for your company.
We were talking a little bit about this backstage. It really is a great case study that reflects the transformation that Global Payments has been on for about 7 years now. When I joined the company back in 2015, from Google, the vision was we don't want to simply sell bricks on countertops. We don't want to just sell card processing. We want to expand in certain verticals that we find attractive, our ability to offer a much broader set of capabilities where we wrap value around the payment. And we've been at that for a while, and we've got very, very deep vertical expertise now, which is part of our core strategy in verticals like education, restaurant, gaming, sports and entertainment, as Tim had mentioned, healthcare. These are massive segments of the U.S. And global economy. And so when the RFP came out for Mercedes-Benz, it was a little bit of serendipity in addition to just being where our company was trying to go, because it wasn't just payment processing. It's the order entry system at the concession stands. It's the kitchen management capabilities. It's the digital display boards. Tim had mentioned all the different points of interaction that you have in a stadium environment. It used to be walk up to the concession stand and make a payment, or entry through the gate with your ticket. But the roadmap, the vision, and I think Mercedes-Benz, Tim and his team, are making us a better partner because of the way they're reimagining that entire experience. Your seat can be a point of interaction. The concession stand, a standalone kiosk, the suite that you're sitting in, all of these become points of interaction for the full range of items that a brand like Mercedes-Benz is selling, at any point in time. And so it really is a great reflection of that overall strategy within this particular segment. And we've got so much wind in our sail now in other sports and entertainment venues based on the work that we've done at Mercedes-Benz, which I really do think is setting the standard for the fan experience of the future. And so I like to say, Tim and Mercedes-Benz, I'll steal a Jack Nicholson line from As Good as It Gets. He makes us want to be a better partner. It's really good.
You're very kind.
There we go. Well, I'd love to hear from both of you. We're here in this post-pandemic world, and of course, payment processing and payment technology looks very different today, and the fan experience looks very different today. I'd love to hear kind of how you're thinking about working with, your merchant customers and what that looks like. And then I'd love to go talk to you a little bit about, in this post-pandemic world, how fintech and payment technologies really help move that fan experience forward.
Yeah, and so many of those interaction or verticals that I mentioned earlier, you think about education and the need to deliver touchless experiences on a college campus or on a school. We like to say that the pandemic has accelerated our innovation roadmap by about 5 years. Telemedicine in healthcare, I want to say that we probably had fewer than 10,000 telemedicine interactions in 2019. We're now doing, 9 figures, hundreds of millions of telemedicine transactions in our healthcare vertical. That's just one example. College campuses are becoming touchless environments, kind of getting all of the interactions that would require retail. It's no secret. The whole mobile order ahead and pick up at the store, buy online, pick up at store, sitting in a numbered lane at a large retailer to get your item, with stuff that you could have only imagined becoming a reality, and now it's the common way for a lot of people to be buying. The whole direct-to-consumer in the retail side, I heard a statistic today that said Nike, more than 50% of Nike sales are now direct-to-consumer. So years ago, you'd have to go to a Foot Locker or some other, Champs Sports to buy a pair of Nike shoes, and now it's all being ordered directly online. Think of what that does to the value chain of the delivery of something like their business. I'm purposely not touching on the stadium experience because I'd love to hear Tim's view on this, but that has radically changed, in the past 2 or 3 years. The fact that many of the stadiums are no longer handle cash. I don't know the last time I had a paper ticket to enter a major venue, but Tim, maybe you could talk about how the pandemic has changed the way the interactions occur in your environment.
Sure. Look, at the end of the day, we refer to any guest that comes into Mercedes-Benz Stadium as welcome home. So just think about it as a 2 million square foot home with occupancy of 70,000, unlike maybe your 5-bedroom, 4-bath that you might have. But the expectation of the consumer is no different. So whatever they've been experiencing, whether it was pre-pandemic or post-pandemic, they now expect that when they come to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So all of a sudden, the delivery at their house, i.e. the Uber Eat of the world, so we have a program called Sit and Sip where people can have drinks brought to them as an example, because that's something that they wanted, right? The comfort or the desire not to touch, completely, I'll use Frank's word, accelerated digital ticketing. Right, so it is very commonplace. I mean, we have the opportunity to host, 10 Falcons games, 18 to 20 United matches, and then another 20 plus third-party events. And a number of those third-party events were a paper ticket. Like, we were always going to have our paper ticket. Then they found that then the pandemic quickly woke them up to awaken them, if you will, to, hey, this digital ticket thing is actually a pretty good idea. And so that complete migration in that regard. Then you look at it as an operator, and so if any of you out there use hourly labor, obviously the skyrocketing costs in hourly labor, then you look at how can technology be ingested into your system to deliver an equal to or better experience for the fan, and yet maybe use technology as opposed to as many people. So we're actually introducing now a frictionless concession in conjunction with Global Payments. So you'll walk in, you've already been age gated, we'll have your payment information, you walk in, you grab your Corona or your sandwich, and you walk back out. You don't touch anybody, you don't get scanned at the register, we charge accordingly, right? So those are innovations that we work with Global Payments on, and that is, in working for Arthur for 19 years, it's not my opinion, it's not my colleagues' opinion, it's the fans. We pour over, after every single event we do, Coldplay this past weekend, we already got 3,800 responses from attendees there on about 90 KPIs. We go through quantitative and qualitative. We obviously try to compound on what's good, and we focus on what can be improved. And a lot of that improvement comes from expectation, right? And so when you look at the extension from pandemic to real life today, they have an expectation. I could do it in my 5-bedroom, 4-bath, or 3-bedroom, pick your poison house. I want to be able to do it with my 70,000 other friends or people around me. So whether it be connectivity or speed of service or type of variety of food, ingress, egress, we understand that, we input it in. We identify in our partners, in this case here specifically Global Payments, how can we work with them to meet and exceed those who come through our doors so that they have the experience that we want them to have.
That's so interesting. So you talked about kind of the idea of taking customer feedback and continuing to innovate. I want to talk about the rollout of this partnership. Tell me a little bit, I know the announcement was in 2021, started in 2022. Tell me a little bit about what that rollout looked like for both of your teams, and yeah, kind of walk me through that process a little bit after you won the bid.
Yeah, maybe I'll start, and then Tim, I'm sure you've got some perspective on this. It's a really interesting challenge dealing with the professional sports venue in terms of rollouts. When you think about, the 50 plus events that Tim mentioned, you've got to kind of squeeze things in, right? There's not a period of time in which it seems to be convenient. There's always some event that's going on that you've got to work yourself around. But the one thing that we've been executing and focused on, and I think Tim touched on it, and I just say, any complex undertaking, if you really want to try to get clarity of purpose and clarity of execution, always think about the customer. In our case, it's not just thinking about Mercedes-Benz as our customer, but it's thinking about the fan and being obsessive about how to make sure when you put it in front of them, it's ready for prime time. And so we've taken what we think is a fairly deliberate approach. It hasn't been a flash cut over to all of the solutions we can deliver. We made sure we can get it right. We've implemented it. And I think we're now at a point where the most recent deployments, and you'll begin to see these if you attend Mercedes-Benz, the equipment that'll be implemented is becoming more and more, and I think we're on a pretty good schedule to get it fully converted to our technology stack, the food and concession and others. But Tim can talk a lot about their approach to making sure that when you put it in front of a fan, it's ready for prime time, and how we've managed through that process.
And this might be relatable to regardless of what form of industry you're in. When you look at identifying who your customer is, you have internal and external customers. You may have layers of both. So you may think our customer is a United fan, a Falcon fan, a concert goer, but the reality is our customer is our food and beverage team as well, and then our accounting team, and then the auditors, and then on down the line, our supply chain management, and on down the line, right? So we did a very prescriptive and intentional rollout. We started with a sample size. We started, frankly, with one concession stand. You got to realize we have over 284 tap handles and at 2 million square feet, a few different points of consumption. So we started with one, and very quickly, once we tested out, we spoke to each audience. So how was the closeout at the end of the night for the accounting and the F&B team? How was the interaction for the hourly associate in hitting the pads and understanding what they were doing so that they could ultimately serve the customer? Because if the associate doesn't know what to hit when the customer says, hey, I want a Coca-Cola, I want a soft pretzel, and I want XYZ, and it's it's complicated interaction, then we failed with the customer, we failed with the associate, they grow frustrated, we didn't get proper reporting on down the line, right? So we brought all those teams in, they all processed and identified that they were getting the information out. We both watched live as well as took qualitative feedback from those who went through the process, and then we continued to roll out. And as Frank referenced, Mercedes-Benz Stadium offers a variety of case studies because just simply going from a concession stand that does not pour spirits, Jack Daniels or Absolute as an example, to our concession stands that do, we do that all off of an easy gun. So all of our spirits come from basically keg rooms and are fed up to an easy gun so that it is all done by technology, equal pours, all that, close to the cash register. Well, that had to be an integration, a software integration with the global payments team to the manufacturers of the Easy Bar solution. So until that patch was 100% reliable, as an example, we couldn't extend out to our points that were pouring spirits. Right, so and I just use that as a myopic example. The several layers that our tech team, their tech team, have worked seamlessly on and pacing it so that ultimately the customers really either only feel a positive experience or don't feel any detraction from the experience that they expect. And then again, in those customers, that's my food and beverage team, that's my finance team, that's my tech team, on down the line. And so, and I know that they're our partner, and it's my job to say they've been amazing, but they truly have been an amazing group to work with because they epitomize rolling up their sleeves to solve anything that can make that experience better for all involved.
And what we haven't talked about is the fact that we're next door here to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and the fact that obviously global payments has a huge impact here in the city. Talk to me a little bit about, and backstage we were talking about how Atlanta's home and been home for a while now. Tell me a little bit about what it meant for the global payments team to kind of win such a big opportunity here in the city of Atlanta.
Yeah, well, we knew that one of the ancillary benefits of being able to position our capabilities to support the goals and objectives of the team at Mercedes-Benz was the fact that this was going to become a focal point for employees. And so we've got 25,000 employees spread around the world. About 7,000 of them are here in Georgia. We have a big presence in Columbus, Georgia. Obviously, we have a big presence right here in Atlanta. I've actually been pleasantly surprised by the level of impact this relationship has had on employee morale, through the period of time. Being able to offer employees the opportunity to enjoy the venue, to see our name on that massively impressive halo that wraps the stadium has been very much an unintended. We knew it would have an impact. I just didn't realize the kind of impact that it would have. And so, it's always good to be proud of the work you do and to find a purpose in the work that you do, and to have it right here in Atlanta on such a big stage has been really a blessing, I think, for the entire company.
And I'm interested to hear from your perspective. You're hitting so many different areas of the AMB entire experience, and in Mercedes-Benz Stadium particularly. How do you think about kind of thinking about the fan experience, and kind of how does that make your job easier when you're able to bring in technology partners like this? I know you work with others as well.
Yeah, the broad question. So at the end of the day, to simplify that is going on the fan journey and identifying any way we can make it a better journey. So we have and I'll touch on some different innovations and then tie it back to global payments, but we brought in a partner in Evolve. So if you've been to the stadium in the past year, we got rid of the traditional magnetometers, and now you come in and we can see whether we actually need to pull you aside or not. So please do not bring in, things that you shouldn't bring to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We will hopefully catch you and keep you out. Others don't want you to have them. And then you go to our partners in Ticketmaster and the digital ticket and the ability to transfer. I've been 29 years in the sport and entertainment business, and I remember plenty of times where I'd have to meet somebody at some random wherever to say, here's your 4 tickets to come to this event, or leave them at will call, and they'd be standing in a big old line with rain waiting to get up there to get their tickets. And now with the push of a button, I can transfer from my living room, Frank, 4 tickets or whoever it may be, or recall tickets, or track down fraudulent. I mean, people don't understand what has happened in the ecosystem. A typical major event might have had $500,000 worth of fraud on ticketing, and now if you go to a digitized using blockchain technology and the randomization of QR codes that populates, that comes down to almost a nascent number. There's always somebody out there trying to prove you wrong, but it's all about that fan experience, and then identifying something that I would say is I'm going to use a non-technical term. I'll just simply say offline. And is there an online solution that fans will adapt? They have to want it. Digital ticketing was not a smooth adoption in a macro sense. Pandemic obviously accelerated it, but when you took something as basic as physical, here's your ticket pack, I have my ticket, and said, hey, now you have to log into this app and create passwords and all that stuff, and you treat various ages in your consumption basket and languages and the like. Sometimes technology, you also got to measure on what is the adaptability of it in order to, again, make that experience even better. So through that process, and I touched on it, as we look to go to opportunities that bring, let's take the idea of pouring products, right? If I'm doing 90,000 transactions, how can I automate some or all of that and meet people's expectations? You've seen folks do self-serving of kegs, like keg walls where a person can walk up. That's a step in that direction. These are the types of conversations we have with global payments to say, here's the pain point we're feeling, here's something we're witnessing, and we don't go out and try and create a problem and then find a technology to then find a problem to match it. We identify problems or opportunities to enhance the experience and then look for the partner to do so. So in a number of cases, obviously relates to this transaction behavior, food, beverage, merchandise, and the like. That's global payments, but it could also be Ticketmaster, it could be AT&T, it could be IBM, it could be a number of other partners that we have in a relationship with us. But it all starts with who we're serving and who we serve changes dramatically. The Atlanta Falcon and Falcon season ticket member are coming pretty regularly, and so they have a behavior they know. But when we host the Mexican national team later in August, there's going to be a number of fans that have never been to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And so when you are in that unique or first-time place, we have to make that process on them as smooth as possible, and also understand that fan, predominantly Spanish-speaking. I happen to be married to a woman that is Latin, and so I know that there's going to be a patriarch in that group that's going to hold tickets for everybody. That's a cultural behavior. I'm speaking generically and ubiquitously, and so I apologize if someone that's not their case in their family, but I've seen it in my family, where and others around it, where someone is holding the 40 tickets, for that entire family. And so, looking at solutions, because and I'll just hamper on that one or stay on that one for just a second, and then turn it back to Frank. Is if 40 people are at the gate waiting for the 39th and 40th person because they're still in the parking lot, well, imagine what that does to the people trying to get in, right? And so then we have to look at it and say, how do we help them understand, hey, it's safe, please put that ticket in somebody else's hand. Okay, that's an example of something that raises up in the live event operations, that then we'll look at technology, and we're looking at that. When you're doing 90,000 transactions at an event, trust me, there's a lot of little things that stand up that then we're calling back AAO, we're calling back Global Payments and saying, what if? What if we could somehow bring Rosie, the Jetson robot, for lack of better terms, into concession to serve this many people? I'm just saying that generically and showing my age. But it's all about the fan.
There's so many unique use cases. I hadn't even thought about that between each and every event that you have. Talking about those use cases, I'd love to hear from your perspective if any particular use case of global payments technology was the most interesting in terms of how you could implement it. We talked about 90,000 transactions for beers and things like that. Mm-hmm. Anything stick out at you as something that was a particularly, say, fun or a unique use case that your team tried to figure out?
Well, I'll give you a few examples, and you're asking me for fun and exciting. You're going to tell me I need a new hobby after this, because, but they're really, really important. So, and this gets back to the vertical fluency we talked about earlier around how global payments goes to market. We really think we shine when we focus on those verticals where we have domain expertise. And so, when you think about the role we've played and some of the subsidiaries that we own have played in QSR, we serve 26 of the 50 largest QSRs, and have had them as customers for years, decades in some cases. And so we understood when we went to Mercedes-Benz, we understood when you think about those 50 plus events, works out, I don't know, maybe one a week, a little more than one a week on average. The people who are working there aren't, that's not their career, right? They may be just coming in for a couple of events. And so you talk about, they may never have done it before. The workers themselves taking the orders, you've got to train them, right? And so the intuitiveness of the design of the order entry system is such that we think you can get pretty well versed in how to operate that system in less than 20 minutes. And that was a benchmark we set for ourselves, is let's make sure somebody using this for the first time could get trained on this, on how to use it in less than 20 minutes. Some of the other things that we over-indexed on when you think about our QSR stack of technology, it's not just the order entry system, it's the kitchen management system, and then it's even, some of the other analytic capability. But some of the capabilities we were able to bring to bear to say, hey, we can cut out a lot of these manual processes that you may have had with the previous partners you were working with, by sending orders directly into the kitchen, right? And to have technology in the kitchen with partners like Levy, and we have others in like Compass and Aramark and others in this space that we've worked with, trying to figure out, to Tim's point earlier, the full life cycle, all of the internal constituents that need to make sure that the beer is cold and that it's fresh from a keg and that the broth is hot and tastes good, is more than just the people at the front stand. It's kind of everything in between. And so, I like to think it wasn't so much an innovation as it was anything new. It was just taking it from what we'd done in QSR and applying it in the case of Mercedes-Benz was something I like to think was a reason why Tim and his team are finding us so easy to work with, is that we've been able to take that vertical fluency and apply it here. And what I'm really excited about, is the future. I've heard Tim, hopefully I'm not stealing any of your thunder, Tim, but I've heard Tim talk about the experience at Mercedes-Benz Stadium should feel not too dissimilar to an all-inclusive resort experience. I love all-inclusive resort experiences, and to make it that easy, to have a walk-up keg stand or to have a kind of an experience where I feel like I'm almost known, to the entity that's serving me, and everything just flows seamlessly. And a lot of times we talk about the customer journey, starting with from the moment I want the ticket to attending the event to going home. I even think there's a broader, and it blows my mind a little bit when you think about the experience of, my relationship with the Atlanta Falcons is a 12-month relationship. It's not the 8 home games that I go to every year, and I may even travel to go see them play on the road. I have a 12-month relationship. I'm wearing their merchandise all year long, and so when you reimagine the experience there, that you've got those moments where I'm attending events at the stadium, but this is a brand I want to have connection with, and I feel loyalty to, every day of the year. I think we're going to find the roadmap for what we do together going forward is going to be pretty impressive.
I don't know. I think when you said all-inclusive resort experience, that sounds pretty fun and exciting. So yeah. I think we can. I think you sold yourself short a little bit. On that one.
Well, he is on to something, because it's out for our season ticket members. Our Club C holders this year for the Falcons will have an all-inclusive experience. So they come in, they get to enjoy not only the Falcons, but the food, non-alcoholic beverage as a part of their season ticket package. So a couple things I'll just touch on, and you talked about direct-to-consumer on Nike in the pandemic and changing people. The ability to customize and get what they want and it be about who they are is also another thing that has definitely been hypercharged since pandemic. People would say, oh, that's always been the case, but as technology has made and the direct-to-consumer platforms have become more plentiful, that expectation has risen. Hey, I can order X number of dresses, skirts, whatever, get them at my doorstep, try on whatever. They gave me self-sealed stamp back, and I send back whatever I didn't want, so I thus never went to a mall. In our stadium, you have so many different audiences. You have a club seat member, you have an all-inclusive club seat member, you have a single game ticket buyer, you have a premium or select buyer, you have suites. They all have different expectations. And then you also have to look at the customer. So where I'm going with that is in the case of suite owners today, depending on what the event is and who they're entertaining, their food and beverage experience, they want to curate. They don't want and again, going back to my age in this business, it used to be a facsimile and say, check your number of Miller Lights you want, Coors Lights you want, and Anheuser-Busch, and check, do you want these sub sandwiches, do you want X, Y, Z, right? And that was how you ordered. Today, they want to say, hey, look, I'm celebrating Frank's 50th birthday, and I want a custom cake, and I want X, Y, Z beverages, and I need old fashions, and they expect it. And so, that is, as I look to where Mercedes-Benz Stadium will go, it is, and you would say that's not an innovation, going back to people getting what they expect from their home and just expecting it in the 2 million square foot home that is Mercedes-Benz Stadium the same. But that is an innovation for us to scale on 191 suites to all of a sudden be able to say, here's what we can provide for you, Frank. So that's our aspiration. Our aspiration is that regardless of the event, so take 191 suites, 50 major events, someone else is smarter than me will do that math. It's a high volume of exclusivity or customization, and then trying to roll that out to meet and exceed customer expectations. And that's an example of something today that is not very technical and thus very challenging for us to do, is to scale that customization, and thus something we are working on with Global Payments in order to do that.
So we have a couple minutes left, and I want to expand on this kind of future of fan experience. We kind of talked about these different ways that you're thinking about what the experience within the stadium will look like. I want to talk to both of you in our last couple minutes here about kind of what this partnership looks like moving forward to make some of these innovations happen, whether that's what it looks like for suite owners or single ticket holders. What's next?
I think Tim touched on a lot of the things that he's got in mind and trying to figure out how to continuously move toward a more frictionless. We've been talking about this concept of embedded fintech. Hopefully it's been touched on at this session. When we stop talking about payments and start talking about experiences, I think all of our minds open up, and I think it positions us as an industry in a much better place when we start working towards those kinds of solutions where it's no longer about just getting an authorization on a credit card. It's about looking at the customer journey, and obviously the events themselves are immensely important to make sure we can continuously innovate. But the thing that we love about Mercedes-Benz and Arthur Blank and his entire focus is the focus on innovation and wanting to press further, faster on making sure that we do have the greatest fan experience here in Atlanta. And so we're along for the ride. In some cases, hopefully, we're bringing ideas to the table. But all of it ultimately comes back to that experience and having an obsessive focus on knowing who the customer is. And I think we've touched on it. It's not just the fan, but it's all elements and dimensions of the team at Mercedes-Benz. I remember years ago, one of my former lives, I worked at a company that was selling enterprise loyalty systems, and we did our big pitch, and we really did think that we had the deal nailed. And there was somebody in the room who maybe we didn't pay enough attention to, who asked a question, like literally with about a minute to go. Do you have an example of what your billing statement looks like? And we provided the billing statement and thought we checked the box and kind of moved along. Well, that person was the person responsible for reconciling the month-end, loyalty points, what was earned, what was burned, and everything we scored well on, but we didn't score well on that one point. And not knowing that person's opinion on what we were delivering was probably one of the most important, because not only did they have to close the books every month, but their auditors had to agree to it. And we just didn't kind of pay attention to that. And so that was a lesson I learned 3-4 careers ago. But Tim is exactly right. When you're bringing a solution into this kind of complex environment, and it is complex, it feels easy when you go in and experience it. But at the end of the day, a single day event, there is a lot going on behind the scenes to make that work and to make that work flawlessly. And so I think, the roadmap of the future is continuing to focus obsessively about that experience for the fans and for the employees at Mercedes-Benz, and looking at it in its broadest context, I think is going to keep the roadmap pretty full.
Frank put a lot more, I'll say, technical jargon around it. I'll just simply say this: if you can experience it at home, you're going to expect to experience it with us. And so whether it be how you connect to Apple TV and your new Major League Soccer relationship and watching Atlanta United, or augmented reality coming through some other concert or college or pro football, if you're at home and you literally just had to go from one part of your house to the other, potentially put on your TV, your concession, your restroom, everything you want, whether it be family or whatever is there, that's the lowest barrier. We have to always be able to at least meet that, and then provide you the why to cut that time out. It's all about consideration. The benefits of coming to Mercedes-Benz Stadium to enjoy anything we put on have to be greater than the cost. And the cost is not just financial, it's time, consideration, what else could they be doing? And so we try to stay very astute to everything that you get. The one feather we have is nothing beats live. If you've ever streamed a concert, it's not the same as going to a concert. If you've ever cheered on the Falcons with your family and friends and tailgated, it's not the same. If you've been in the supporters section or anywhere in Mercedes-Benz Stadium for a United match and the ATL UTD chant goes on and you're part of it, it's not the same. So when we raised the cup in 18 and you were there, not the same as watching on TV. So love the TV product. It's great partners of ours. Definitely, at the end of the day, we couldn't service everyone. I mean, 1 million people watch a Falcons game. We can only put 70,000 in the stadium, as an example. So we want that to be the case, but that's our barometer, and we got to at least meet that. And we rely on partners like Frank and the folks at Global Payments to help us stay in front of that curve.
Well, Tim, Frank, I really appreciate your time, and I hope everybody, if you have not been to the stadium, will soon experience what innovation looks like within this stadium. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.